Hey everybody, welcome back to another video on my channel. Today we're going to be talking about what it's like to meet somebody new for the first time when it comes to a business and a professional setting. Let's get into it. Let's talk about what it's like to meet a new person. So I've come out with a couple videos so far about what it's like to prepare for meetings, what it's like to start a new job, what is it even to be an introvert, right? And today I met someone new for one of the accounts that I have with my new job. And in the back of my mind, I kept thinking about all the videos that I've made so far and trying to incorporate my advice and some of the lessons that I've been giving out in my videos. And I wanted to talk about it today while it was still fresh on my mind and kind of mix in a little bit about the differences between meeting somebody new and then meeting someone else in person that you know, and especially because we're just coming off of Thanksgiving here in the US. I think we can talk about both of those and kind of do like a side-to-side comparison. So let's start with my meeting today. I reached out to him. It was kind of like a cold reach out. My business is already doing business with his company, and I reached out to introduce myself, and luckily he responded. So in my reach out, I made it personal, letting him know that, hey, I'm new to the company. I'm based in your city, and I'm in charge of building strategy, and I want to get to know you and see how we can continue to grow our business relationship. And so he reached back out, and we set up an introductory meeting today, and it went great. We probably talked for about an hour and a half, and over coffee. And I think one of the great things about that meeting and listening to some of the words of advice that I've been giving in my other videos so far and really putting into practice, and me like thinking about myself and also trying to be present in my conversation in the meeting this morning, was what makes introverts such great listeners. And as we were going through the conversation, I was listening to him, and he was talking, and I was listening with intent and thinking about what he was saying and internalizing it, and then coming up with relevant questions to keep him digging deeper and talking about more. It kind of surprised me in the moment, and it made me realize that, hey, like we are really good listeners, us as introverts, and I was surprised in myself and proud of myself in that meeting this morning, because I made a little bit of introduction about who I was and kind of what the goal was and why I wanted to meet him. We talked a little bit about business, and then we just started talking about other things, what we like to do, what our passion projects are, what we would like to do in the next 3 to 5 years. And it just felt natural. And I think the reason why it felt natural, after a point in time, right? It was a little bit awkward at first because it's hard, because you don't want to stumble. You don't want to look unprepared. You don't want to be unprofessional. But probably after about 10 minutes or so of just like starting that conversation and keeping it going by listening to what he was saying, asking the right questions to keep him going and keep it on topic, or maybe a slight adjacency, but it keeps the conversation going. And that means so much more than the exact content of that conversation. And let me be clear, right? I don't mean that having pointless conversations or conversations that you mean you're talking about nothing means you're not making any progress. sometimes just letting a conversation go and asking questions and just seeing where that conversation takes you organically is probably one of the best ways to make a new relationship or have a new relationship and keep it moving, because it shows that you're interested in, regardless of what you're talking about. You are genuinely interested in what they're saying and you want to know more, and you're in the back of your mind, you're also thinking about maybe some of the topics that you're interested in, or you might come to a point in the conversation where you feel comfortable enough to maybe bring up a slightly different topic and see what they think about it. And it's all about just having that back and forth, being able to listen, being able to come up with some really good questions for them to keep them talking, because at the end of the day, right, we like listening, and we like understanding where that person is coming from, rather than just talking and talking and talking and carrying on the conversation. So that's part one. Part two is, let's compare that to Thanksgiving with friends or family last week. Those of you that either traveled back home to see some of your immediate family, maybe some extended family, maybe it was the in-laws this year, or maybe it was your partner's family, and maybe it was just friends and you had a Friendsgiving. The Friendsgiving is a little bit different because those are your small tight-knit groups, and we've talked about those before, that you already have those tight-knit relationships built up and you like having those people around you, and it's really easy just to carry on and have a great day. But what makes it a little bit harder are those extended families, or those you don't see a whole lot, and maybe you only see them once a year. Maybe you only see them on Thanksgiving, or maybe you rotate and it's Thanksgiving one year and Christmas the other. Regardless, you're probably only seeing them once a year. And those, while they're not complete strangers, it is harder to have conversations with them, because it's almost going back to small talk. Sometimes you initiate it because, hey, it's your aunt or your uncle and you want to just see what they've been doing over the last few months or over the last year. Maybe it's a younger cousin that's in college, or in high school, something like that, and you want to see how their classes are going. So some of the same old things, but it's important to have those conversations rather than you go into a family function and you sit in a corner and play on your phone, and then you wait for mealtime, and then everyone's eating so you don't have to talk, and then you find an excuse to leave. But it's maybe making that effort, and even if you don't initiate that conversation, maybe it's someone else who comes up to you and asks how you've been and what you've been working on. It's having that response that is a little bit more open, and that may be nonverbal, right? And you answer with, a posture that's a little bit more open. Your shoulders are open, your hands are open, right? Signs that you are inviting and you're ready for a conversation, rather than being, closed off or keeping your head down and giving a short answer, giving the cue to somebody else that you're not really in the mood to talk, which sometimes that's perfectly fine. And a lot of times the other person will pick up on those cues and keep the conversation short, and then walk away and talk to somebody else. But if you're inviting, right, and you open that dialogue and let that other person know that, hey, I'm open for conversation, well, let's continue it. That makes it easier for you not only to have that person stay with you and continue talking, but it also internally makes it easier for you to participate in that conversation and keep it going. So even when it's somebody that you know, right, sometimes it is hard to talk to them if you don't see them that often. But the great thing about people that you know is that there is some sort of commonality that you can fall back on, whether it's a shared relative, or maybe you can, talk about their family, or one of their kids, or a vacation that they've gone on that you may have seen online, like if they've posted it somewhere. So it kind of makes it easier because you already have a little bit of history together. as opposed to meeting someone new. You don't necessarily know any of those things, and like I said, you have to kind of stay in that conversation that you've already started. And most of the times, like in a business role, you're starting on a business conversation, and you're going to try to keep it on those lines, and then you'll see where it takes you elsewhere. So you kind of have a place to start. So hopefully you can kind of see the differences there between, maybe meeting someone that you haven't talked to in over a year, and it kind of feels a little awkward at first because it's been so long, but then maybe you can find some common ground and talk about something. And then with a new person, you kind of have to have that starting place of usually a business aspect, and then see where it goes and carries on. So at the end of the day, right, if it's a family Thanksgiving, you want to end right on a positive note, hopefully, and make sure that everyone has a great day, and you want to leave in a positive mental state. Same thing on a business side, meeting a new contact. You want to hopefully get to that next meeting, or be invited out to go do something, like after work hours. And in my case, that's what it kind of turned into. So it led to a conversation of hobbies and what we'd like to do, and hopefully we're gonna get together and go participate in speed paintball. And so hopefully that's something that we'll do here pretty soon. But he's the one who initiated that, and all the time, and all while we were talking, I was just hoping that he liked me enough to keep talking to me and didn't completely shut down. And so that's a good outcome of the meeting. So hopefully that helps some of you kind of understand where my mental state is, and if you've had similar mental states, and just let you know that it's okay to have thoughts like that, and to make sure that it's okay, and it's not wrong to feel a certain way, or carry on a conversation a certain way, or feel like you're being judged. That it's okay, right? And either way, right, talking to relatives or talking to new people, at the end of the day, it's just about listening, right, and asking the right questions. So hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you for the next one.